Damn, that sounds ridiculous. When you hit a power chord, when you hit a chug, when you hit a note, and you feel the way that it responds on the real thing, you're going to fall in love with it. What is up, everyone? I'm back with a new video, something I haven't done before, I don't think at least. I've done a lot of videos at this point, and today we're going to talk about the difference in sounds of tones between the real deal Omega Granophyre and the plugin Omega Granophyre. The plugin being made by Neural DSP, but I'm pretty sure certified and authorized and everything by Omega Ampworks, and so it should be pretty close to the real deal. There are some differences here though, because I have the special edition one that was made for Axe Palace, and they made 15 of these, and so I'm rocking KT77 tubes in it and a couple of different switches that the plugin does not have. So to keep things fair, in the plugin I have switched it to the KT66 tubes instead of EL34 or 6L6 to get it as close as possible to the KT77s that are in the real thing. I've set everything to noon in the plugin. I've set everything to noon on the amp itself. I've turned the NFB switch on it off, which is the negative feedback on the back of it. I have oversampling set to high on the plugin, and I am using the plugin as the cab section for the real amp as well. Again, I'm trying to keep things fair and as impartial as possible, so I'm not using mics on the cab, I'm not using anybody else's third-party impulse responses or anything like that. And it is also important to note that I've not changed the cab section at all. I've left it at the default state for the default setting when you open up the Omega Ampworks Granophyre plugin for the first time. So it looks like it's using an SM57 and a Royer 121. And they're spaced pretty far from the center of the cone on both of those mics, so it's a little bit darker. We might dial and tweak that in a little bit differently later, but I just wanted to see how close these two sound to each other. I've done my best to level match the volume from the amp itself, which is going into my Two Notes Captor 8, and I am splitting my guitar signal using a JDI Pro 48 DI box. And so my Kiesel Kyber with the illusionist bridge pickup is going into the DI box, which is then splitting out into the amp and into my interface, so that way I can have the DI signal then going into the plugin as well. And again, I've made sure to gain stage every step of the way to make this as close as possible to the real deal. So I hope this sounds good, because this was a lot of work to set up and everything. I'm not using any overdrives on either of these at the moment. So the first thing you're going to hear is the amp itself, and then you're going to hear the plugin itself. So you're gonna see me moving around and everything because I need to make sure that I can let you hear both and see both. And so I'm gonna back up so that my B cam can actually capture the amp itself. So let's go ahead and just get some good old riffs going in here and see how it sounds. This is the amp. All right, let's go ahead and switch over to the plugin now. One thing you'll notice is the plugin has a lot more noise for some reason, even though I've turned off the gate on both. I'm not using a hardware gate on the real amp either. So now we're on the plugin, and let's play that same riff. Back to the amp. Back to the plugin. All right, so since everything was at noon, let's go ahead and move some knobs and everything on both the plugin and on the amp itself. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change things on the amp, and then I'm gonna mirror it over on the plugin as well, and we'll see how things respond. All right, on the plugin, let's raise the depth and the detail to almost all the way. So we got right about there. This is a little bit lower. All right, and back to the amp again. All right, and same thing over on the plugin. So let's go ahead and bring treble, mid, and bass up slightly. Let me know down in the comments below which one you so far think sounds better. All right, plugin's still sounding pretty badass, gotta say. Let's go back to the amp here. All right, so overall so far, the plugin is sounding quite a bit darker to me and through these speakers and everything than the amp does. Obviously, I may change my thoughts on that when I go back and edit this video because I'll edit it with headphones on. But so far, the amp definitely sounds brighter, and there could be a couple of reasons for that. So let's go ahead and try messing with the voice switch, because it looks like the voice switch on the plugin is in the down position. It's in a different place on this amp. It goes left to right. It doesn't go up and down like it does in the plugin. So let's go ahead and push it all the way to the left. So it's still brighter than the plugin. Let's go to the right. To my ears, it almost sounds like it's scooping a little bit of the mids. I'm gonna put it back in the middle position, and I'm gonna turn the focus switch to the right. And we'll go back to the plugin. All right, so the amp is still quite a bit brighter. Let's go ahead and try the NFB, so the negative feedback switch on the back. I'm gonna put it in the second position now and see how we sound. All right, so it's a little bit more loose and almost rectifier sounding there to my ears. There's one last toggle that we can switch to see if it makes a difference at all, and that's going to be this 1 and 2. So it's two different forms of gain, I surmise. I still need to research that a little bit more. Again, the plugin doesn't have that, so this is another switch that I'm going to have to compare to the plugin. So it is now in the 2 position, and this is what we've... All right, and back to the plugin. Cool. So I think it's safe to say that the amp itself is quite a bit more tight. It's quite a bit more aggressive than the plugin. And again, we're keeping this fair by not using an overdrive pedal at all. And I think what is important to point out here is that the real Omega Granophyre doesn't seem to need an overdrive of any sort. with a 6 string. With the 7 string, it's a little bit different story. The 7 strings do have a lot more low end that you would want to like clean up with an overdrive, in my opinion. But on a 6 string tuned to drop C with relatively high output pickups, I think that the real amp just does a better job of translating that into a sound that I like, you know? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to dial in both of them to a tone that I really like, and then we'll compare the two. And we'll see where the settings end up landing there. So first thing that we'll do is we will dial in the plugin. So we're gonna dial in the plugin to get a tone that I actually like, because right now I'm not digging it. Although it does sound good, man. Like, I can't deny that it sounds good. So first thing I do is gotta turn that gate on, because this thing is noisy. So we'll crank up the gate. And what do we do now? Let's bring the master down. Let's bring it up a little bit more, and then we'll boost the output. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Let's go ahead and try the voicing switch on here. So that immediately sounds like less gain to me. And let's put it back down. That sounds good. Let's bring the depth down a little bit. Let's bring the detail down a little bit. Honestly, it sounds pretty good there. Let's bring some mids out and see how it sounds. I like mids in my tone, man. I like that too much. Okay, and let's bring the depth down a little bit more. All right, it's got that grind, that clank that the amp has. So obviously Neural DSP did a good job with this. There's no denying that. So for me personally, leaving these settings all alone like that, it sounds pretty damn good. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna move back over to the amp and I'm going to kind of dial that in. I'm gonna turn my speakers so I can hear myself here. It's kind of funny not using a cab when I've been using a cab for a really long time now. I haven't touched a plug-in in 2 to 3 months, honestly. So. Let's go ahead and dial this amp in. All right, so I turned the negative feedback back on. All right, so I've got them both where I think I like them right now. And the settings aren't they're not too terribly different. On the plugin, you see I've got the bass, mid, and treble at almost the exact same settings. The level is at about halfway. Master is a little bit above a quarter up. Voice is in the down position. Depth and detail are up. And we're in the high gain setting. Gain's still at halfway. I left it at halfway on both. I just like how it sounds right there. Right now, if I was going to be tracking something, I might take a little bit of gain out, but I like the saturation that I'm working with right now. Sounds really good on both of these. And again, no overdrive pedal on either of them. They're both sounding sick. On the amp itself though, I do have the focus switch turned to the right position, and I do have the negative feedback switch on the back turned on. So we are using the negative feedback, and I have pumped up the depth and the detail. And I think one of the things to point out about this amp is that the depth and the detail can be pumped up quite a bit more on there without it overloading things and sounding really muddy or too harsh, which the detail and depth knobs on the amp plugin don't really do that same job. And again, that could be something to do with the KT77 tubes inside of here instead of the KT66. So there is a voicing difference between those two. And it also could just be a placebo, but to my ears, that stuff is sounding different. So let's go ahead and switch back and forth right now between the two different tones that I've made here. And let me know which one you like more. All right, so with this test, what do y'all think? Are you going for the plugin or are you going for the amp? The amp is a world of difference in price. And although I'm switching all the way over to real amps because I love them, I can't deny the plugins sound sick. They really do sound great. And I would say in a lot of A to B tests, especially since Omega worked with Neural DSP on this, that you would be hard pressed to tell the difference in a mix. Now in the room, I can really tell a difference. One, because I can play this through a cab, no problem, and I have real tube power moving these speakers. So in the room, an amp is always gonna be more fun to me. There is zero latency in comparison with even something like the Quad Cortex or any of the other modelers out there, which have gotten so good at this point that the latency is almost imperceptible to begin with. But there is always that immediacy that you feel from an amp like the Omega Granophyre. It's really not something that you can put into a video. It's not something that a camera and a microphone can measure. You know, or at least to my knowledge it can't. If there is a way, then somebody let me know because I could be completely off base on that. But when you hit a power chord, when you hit a chug, when you hit a note, and you feel the way that it responds on the real thing, you're going to fall in love with it. And that's a problem because, you know, money is tight. And so I maybe highly recommend that you don't do that because you don't want to fall in love with amps again. I've gone down such a rabbit hole and I'm really stoked to be doing it. And thankfully I've got a lot of other gear that I can sell to try and pick up more, you know. This is a ridiculously fun amp. This was a Grail amp purchase for me. I wanted one for the longest time. Ever since I played the version 1 a long time ago and then saw Misha Mansour using one and the hit tones he was getting was just insane with it. And then I finally got to get one. I'm stoked on it. And as we heard, the plugin does a pretty damn good job too, but the amp, in my opinion, still wins. And yes, I have some cognitive bias there because of the fact that I paid a lot of money for this amp and I want it to sound good, but to my ears, it also really does. And the joy that I get playing from it just cannot be replicated yet in a plugin or digital form. But I will happily stand corrected in the future if that happens. But for now, I'm still just in love with amps again. I mean, you can't break my amp with a plugin update or a computer update. If I were to update my Mac right now to a different OS, I could brick everything that I'm using on it, you know? And I have bricked my Quad Cortex by updating it in the past. So that's something great about this amp. I can't really do that unless I dropped it or power surge, but you know, I've got contingency plans for all of that to make sure that stuff doesn't happen anyways. But yeah, I won't, well, this is a discussion for another time. Let's go ahead and just end the video here. Please let me know any questions that you have down in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what kind of other videos like this you want to see in the future as well, because this is fun. I like doing little tests like this, and I hope it helps you all make any decisions or just, you know, was entertaining for you at the very least. But until next time, peace and love, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye now.